It's remarkably different. The change in the working environment in a law firm changed massively whilst I was there. The pressure not only to do your day job and to get your billing targets done, but to work longer hours and to do business development and other training. The pressure of law firms increased massively in the period that I was working for law firms. And although there is pressure in this job, it's a different type of pressure. It's in many ways it's like being a lawyer again, because you are back to dealing with law and problems and finding solutions, and you are freed from the daily essentials now of the modern law firm, of time recording, of all that business development and the like. And so it is in many ways a relief to be free from that environment.
I think the challenges of being a family district judge, partly the amount of work, it's always on the increase, partly that for the people coming in front of the judge, very often litigants in person, their children are obviously the most important thing in the world to them, and managing the emotion in the room. The other thing that I found new and a challenge in that respect is it's a very different emphasis from civil litigation. In civil cases, there's been a problem, you decide whose fault it was and make an award. In family, you have to try to think, particularly in children cases, got to try to think what's going to work for the future. And it will only work for the future if you can get the parties to some extent to buy into the order that you make. And so you've got quite a lot of managing the parties' expectations so as hopefully to encourage them to go along with the order that you make, because if they don't agree with it, it very often doesn't work. So there's a lot of people skills, which is exhausting, but it's really rewarding when it works. And I have had cases where I've had continuity, I've had the case from beginning to end, and at the end one of the parents acting in person says, "Thank you, I didn't trust what you were saying at the beginning, but it's all come good now. I can see now what you were trying to achieve, and I've got where I wanted to get." So that's one of the major challenges, but also one of the major rewards when it works.
What we have seen, of course, is an increase in those who are attending court unrepresented, who haven't had the benefit of any legal advice. They may have issued their applications online, taken some guidance off of the internet, relied upon what they've been told by friends and family. One of my favourite expressions that I've used many a time is part of what we now do is manage their expectations. They come into a courtroom, their only knowledge of a courtroom is what they've seen on the television or in films, and sometimes it's a bit of a shock for them. There's no gallery, there's no jury. You'd be surprised how many people come into a courtroom thinking there's going to be people watching, and you have to get them through the process as well as decide their case, and that can be challenging because they have these preconceptions, and what you have to do is sometimes just explain the process, make them understand what the issues are that you're having to consider, try and draw out and push aside the emotion that they are feeling, because often those who are acting for themselves are emotional about their case, whether it be about an accident, a kitchen installation, or a dispute over where the children are going to live. They're bringing their emotions into the courtroom, and what we have to do is, I think, acknowledge that those emotions exist, but say, really, I've got to look at the facts, the issues, and apply the law. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that your emotion isn't genuine, it's not misguided, but it's not what I have to decide the case upon. And that's a challenge in itself. And sometimes that can affect the direction of a hearing. Some are very receptive to what you're saying, some simply don't understand why it is that they can't bring all their baggage into the courtroom arena. So that's something I think you have to be alive to, is you are dealing with people who are not used to being in a courtroom, not used to lawyers, not used to dealing with authority.
Although many of the cases are simply a question of deciding disputes of fact and then applying the law, very often perhaps surprisingly often, we have instances where we have to really figure out what the right answer is, bearing in mind the complexity of the legal issue. This often means being presented with cases to consider, like precedents, and examples or justifications, and listening to two good advocates explain their respective positions, and then have to choose the one which you feel is the most appropriate outcome, can be very stimulating. It's interesting, and certainly at the end of it you feel as if you've done a proper piece of work.
One of the things I think that is great about being a district judge is the variety of the work. So I deal with a whole range of work, ranging from personal injury cases to consumer cases, to landlord and tenant cases, to bankruptcy cases, to divorce, to civil partnerships, to children disputes. So no 2 days are the same. It's challenging work. It can be, and often is, very difficult work, but it's, for me, incredibly satisfying.